Speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Chair of today's session, distinguished speakers on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to read it because it will take lesser time. I am highly honored to receive this invitation on this part of the Sahitya Akademi's discussion on science fiction in Assamese language. I extend my sincere thanks to Sahitya Akademi for providing me with this opportunity. At the outset, I must confess that while trying to draw a picture of science fiction in the Assamese language, this may not be able to represent the commendable all works of Assamese science fiction. Let me begin by saying, even though the writing of science topics in the Assamese can be traced to a few centuries back, modern Assamese science writing started emerging in an organized form with the advent of the American Baptist missionaries in the mid-19th century through their regular publication Orunodoi. To unfold the fascinating journey of Assamese science fiction, which has been enriched by a number of commendable works, let's go back to 1937. When the first science fiction story, Birsotiar Dekh, a satirical and a humorous one, written by Hariprasad Borua, appeared in the magazine Abahan. In this story, the protagonist arrives on the planet Jupiter after his death and continues to reside there. Referring to the customs on the planet, the writer seeks to delineate some inadequacies of human society. However, it was all the dream caused by the bits of hemp. Before this work, the work with science fiction qualities was published in Assamese in 1914. It is by Ambikagiri Rai Chaudhary, who painted a futuristic scenario in his article, The Ultimate Ideal of Mankind and the Path to the World Peace. He discussed the possibilities of space travel and organ transplant in this article. It must be mentioned that during this time, the science education in Assam was hardly more than elementary. And yet we find work of extraordinary merit concerning the time. We better stop the treatment. We want to bring the youth back. Why should he be a child again? The monk had a great look at the old man and said, in a way, it is not bad if one restarts from his boyhood. People do think of childhood in times, but everyone wants youth only. Even the They had targeted youth, and now it seemed possible to regain childhood. It was a remarkable achievement. And this is from the excerpt from the science fiction, second science fiction in Assamese, named Rohayan, Chemistry, written by Rothindranath Goswami in 1938, and was based on traditional kayakalp treatment. In this story, the writer discussed the improvement of ancient medicine through modern science, which applied to give youth to adult. In a narrative, humorous and satirical, a qualified physician guided by a monk applies kayakalp treatment to an old man, but in the process, the old man becomes a boy. The unconventional story element, lucidity of the narratives, and the progress of the concept were so intricately interwoven that it keeps reader captive till the end, and these qualities make the story the finest one. Kubudeswar Borthakur, a renowned figure in the library movement in Assam, wrote a detective novel, Atom Boma, in 1946. The story stands out as one of those enriching Assamese science fiction, which was about the plan to make an atom bomb near Guwahati, with raw materials from nearby when its experimental explosion at Meghalaya. It is interesting to note that uranium was discovered in Meghalaya later. Post-independence time, a few mainstream writers contributed immensely towards the growth of science fiction. Don't you know how I listened to her amidst all the noise in the printing press nearby? Have not you seen how I look at her lips when she speaks? Now you seek to filter that down? Have we planned only for this? Is it this we created the mini noise with so much effort? The husband who loves the dulcet singing of his wife says this. Saurav Kumar Soliha, one of the most powerful narrators of modern Assamese short stories, in his story Awaz in 1950, reflected the onslaught of modern technology in our lives and the effects of noise pollution on our brain and heart. The story subtly conveys that in the age of technology, the ultimate winner will be human sensibility. Dr. Bhavendranath Sahitya, wrote a very well-crafted story, Gahbar, the cave, in 1968. This was after the first successful heart transplant. The writer links the heart transplant with the issue of apartheid, wherein the heart of one recently married black young man, Mr. Smith, was transplanted to a white elderly person, Mr. Pinner. Mary, the wife of Mr. Smith, meets Mr. Pinner. Mary was rattled initially, but gathered herself and supplicated, "Allow me to rest my head on your chest for once, so that I can listen to the heartbeats of my dear Smith. I have not heard for many days. His heart beats on the very earth, yet I do not get to hear it. It's very torturous, sir, quite unbearable." The complex storyline portrays the inner world of characters, the deeper truth of life, in the age-defining success of the medical science. Another great writer, Namakanta Barua, he wrote Opodartha in 1982, is based on a high-level scientific theory and its possible outcome. Seeking to make a symbiosis of surgery and biophysics, the protagonist attempts to invent an innovative technology to make a bloodless operation. And at the end, he invents the destructive power antimatter. Poet Horakrishna Dekha also made a meaningful contribution with the novel Agantuk. Assamese science fiction literature reached a new height with a recognition of Saraswati Sanman in 2008 to the works of Dr. Lakshminandan Bora for his novel Kayakalpa. The novel is based on traditional Kayakalpa treatment and is the best example of science with a human appeal. This is a rare new theme on a huge canvas where science and humanity coexist. This irrepressible desire of humans to be young adds an expeditiousness to this story. One of the pioneers of science fiction in Assam, Bijoy Krishna Dev Sharma, published the first science fiction novel, Chandralokat Pratham Manu, in 1966, based on lunar expedition. His science fiction novel, Tulokhir Tole Migo Pohusore, is an exciting journey to the moon. Dev Sharma published more than 50 stories in newspapers, periodicals, and radio broadcasts. Dr. Dinesh Chandra Goswami made immense contribution to Assamese science fiction literature, with more than 100 science fiction stories included in 9 anthologies, 11 science fiction novels, including 2 for children, and thus played a leading role in the development of this branch of literature. He arrived at the center stage to popularize science fiction with the publication of anthology Bhadrata Mapak Janto, that is etiquette meter. He has got a lot of list of his book. National Book Trust has published his anthology Dinesh Chandra Goswami's Swanibhashita Golpo. This has been translated in English also. Undoubtedly, Dinesh Chandra Goswami, through his original ideas, futuristic approach of science, lucid description, enormous narrative skill, and creative imagination, has taken Assamese science fiction to a new height. Santanu Tamoli, the third person in the trinity of this science fiction background, is Santanu Tamoli. The Santanu Tamoli's first story, He Chandra Bidai, he published in 1964, is about an accident faced by a space explorer team while returning from the moon. His anthology Mayamigo included 8 stories that have literally appeal, commingled with lucid description and curiosity till the end. Apart from his contribution as a writer, Tamoli as an editor of 2 most popular children's magazines, which is running for 40 years till today, Mochak and Notun Abiskar, has provided a platform for the science writing and has been playing a pivotal role in the growth of science fiction by mentoring new writers. Another noteworthy contributor, Abhijit Sharma Barua, has published nearly 100 stories, including stories for children. His story is simple yet humorous, narratives, and cater to all classes of readers. He deals with the subject to a very simple manner and transcend from ordinary to extraordinary, and thus can captivate the readers through the entire story and succeed in dealing a new taste. Bandita Phugan, the first woman mechanical engineer from Assam, and author of more than 100 books, has undoubtedly made a remarkable contribution to science fiction. Her first anthology, Ditya Byakti, second person, was published in 1991. She wrote a few novels, including novels for children. Phukan's varied topics include the present and the future, the earth and the cosmos, other planets and stars, the extraterrestrial, robots, clone creators, etc. Her stories have been translated into other Indian languages. Another woman writer who contributed to science fiction is Ajanta Das. Ranju Hazarika, the doyen of detective thriller. Yes, ma'am, 3 minutes. the detective thriller with more than 700 books to his credit. He contributed immensely to the genre. He has created a record with nearly 70 science fiction books, including 40 for children. He takes the readers to a completely different world through his beautiful narration and lucid description. The fantasy series Jason and Pawan, with tales of conflict between the mankind and the ETs, are the real fantasies. Dr. Jayanta Kumar Goswami and Dr. Mihir Kumar Goswami, both medical professionals, has etched their places in science fiction stories. Dr. Devi Saran Thakur written a book, novel Mahapasthana Towards a Great Demise, is built on the probable gene changes behind the rise of terrorist activities. Dr. Padmapani's Hartik is a fantasy aimed at juvenile leaders, where a wristwatch called Hartik lets one know the inner world of individual. Omulya Kumar Hazarika's Akraman and Sandhan, it deals with the one is that breed of fighter ants, another is of a extraterrestrial. This is one of those successful books in Assamese. And Shakil Jamal's novel Nila Nila Bedona is Blue Melancholy. It shows how the wrong application of DNA, realignment technology can do havoc to humans. Bikram Majumdar Barua's science fiction stories, Dipankar Barua's Divine Code, Narendranath Chaudhary's Anya Ghor Khobor, Jibanjyoti Bordol's Ishwar are a few noteworthy contributions. Sangit Nadar Akademi Award winner playwright Arun Sharma's Thavar is recognized as the first Assamese play with science fiction essence. This radio play portrays the tremendous development of science and technology in our society. Dinesh Chandra Goswami made a meaningful contribution with more than 40 science fiction radio plays. Jantra Manap, the writer written by Prabhat Goswami in 1987, is the first science fiction stage play in Assamese and depicts how a scientist created a machine man devoid of humanity and conscience of normal human beings. There are a lot of other writers who has contributed for this thing, for science plays. Many writers have written for the children. And the speaker himself, novel for the children, is the Revolt of the Robot, portrays the robot society and its impact on humankind and touches on issues like technology and the environment and exploitation of fair practices. Goswami's novel, Paul Moria Sising or Duha Obizan, is based on a character Sising who performs various adventures after a brain-computer interference implant named Paul Moni. Assamese science fiction is enriched by two anthologies, both edited by Santanu Tamoli. The first one, Ahomia Kolpa Bigyan Hongkolon, this is a commendable work. I must congratulate Sahitya Akademi for publishing this anthology. This is the first anthology with 21 stories and was attempted to reflect the astounding variety of Assamese science fiction. The preface of the book is a valuable edition that has captured the journey of science fiction with special reference to Assamese. Another anthology, Potibimbo, a collection of 12 stories for teenagers, was published by Assam Science Writers Association. These anthologies have strengthened the foundation of science fiction in Assam. To conclude, science fiction in Assamese is enriched by translation of various works in the world literature. A few works of Assamese has been translated in English. Anthology of Assamese science fiction stories has been published by Sahitya Akademi Homo Miniskula. Hair Timer by National Book Trust of Dinesh Chandra Goswami's. Kaya Kalpa, the Elegy of Everlasting Youth. It has been translated. A Day in the Future When Robot Would Rule. These are the English translated book. Assamese newspaper and periodicals have been playing a major role in the growth of science fiction. It must be mentioned that Digest magazine Bismo has played a major role in popularizing science fiction in Assamese. Keeping pace with the advancement of science and technology, science fiction attained a new dimension. So before I sign off, there are a few concerns. Reading habits in a media-saturated environment, the fast-changing digital world, the rapid dwindling of language readership. These are a few challenges for Assamese science fiction. And I am sure that many new writers, including women writers, will make immense contribution and publishers will come forward to work in unison to make the journey a more memorable and beautiful one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goswami. That was a very, very nice introduction to the robust Assamese science fiction, actually. And the kind of topics that are being picked up by the writers there was really interesting. Now we have exactly, I think, 7 minutes for the end of this session. Are there any questions? Otherwise, we'll wind up. Anyone? Yes, young man. Okay.